Picture this. You wake up in the middle of pure chaos. The bustling streets of Raccoon City, usually alive with neon lights and traffic noise, are silent now. An eerie quiet broken only by distant, guttural moans drifting through the night air. Piece by piece, the grim truth hits you. The city has been swallowed by an outbreak of the T-virus, known among terrified survivors as the cannibal disease. Your neighbors, your co-workers, complete strangers, all turned into ravenous creatures that crave human flesh. And the emergency services? Gone. Vanished. In this nightmare, survival isn't just about luck. It's about every choice you make. Do you grab a makeshift weapon? Try to reach the rooftop of a building? Every single decision, where to hide, how to move, even what job you had before this, might decide if you escape alive or become just another statistic. Today, we're plunging into what it would actually take to survive Resident Evil's legendary hellscape. We'll explore how to escape the franchise's most iconic death traps, the police station, the sewers, and the Umbrella Labs. But first, we have to answer one chilling question. How did an entire city collapse so quickly and so completely? The fall of Raccoon City didn't happen overnight. It was a catastrophe in slow motion, months in the making. It all started way back in May 1998. Deep in the Arclay Mountains, the Queen Leech, a rogue bioweapon, attacked the Arclay laboratory, igniting the first outbreak of the T-virus. The virus slipped out from the secret labs beneath the iconic Spencer Mansion and began infecting wildlife across the region. The disaster spread silently, while Umbrella Corporation, the pharmaceutical giant responsible for the virus, was already losing its grip. By June, local reports began to surface about attacks from so-called wild animals in the woods around Raccoon City. But those animals weren't animals at all. They were Cerberus, Doberman dogs infected with the T-virus, with rotting skin and murderous instincts. At this point, the virus was no longer trapped in labs. It was out. Then, on September 22nd, things took a catastrophic turn. Umbrella scientist William Birkin was shot by agents from his own corporation while trying to negotiate a deal for his research. In the chaos, vials of the G-virus shattered, releasing the virus into the sewers. Infected rats escaped into the city's water supply, carrying the virus into Raccoon's Lake Victory, the very lake that provided drinking water for the entire city. Later studies, like those in Resident Evil archives, indicate that ingesting the T-virus has an incubation period of 12 to 24 hours, which explains how, in mere days, nearly 100,000 residents found themselves exposed to a deadly contagion. Hospitals buckled under the sudden flood of patients. The Raccoon General Hospital quarantined entire wings, trying desperately to contain what people were calling the cannibal disease. On September 24th, martial law was declared. But it was already too late. The city's infrastructure collapsed. Police stations became makeshift fortresses, the streets filled with chaos, blood, and the echo of gunfire. As for the Umbrella, instead of helping, they started murdering members of the elite STARS team to bury the truth. Finally, on October 1st, 1998, the US government made an unspeakable decision. They dropped a thermobaric bomb on Raccoon City. These bombs can produce temperatures of up to 3,000 degrees Celsius at ground zero, vaporizing everything in a several kilometer radius. Officially, it was to contain the outbreak. In reality, it was a scorched earth cover-up on a near-nuclear scale. Your chances of surviving the outbreak depended massively on where you were when hell broke loose. Were you downtown, stuck in a residential suburb, or crawling through the sewers? Each location dictated a totally different survival game plan. Take the Raccoon Police Department, the R.P.D. It used to be a museum before Umbrella funded its transformation into a police HQ. So, the building was filled with bizarre architecture and hidden passageways. But when the outbreak hit, those same winding corridors became death traps. Zombies shambled through hallways, and the terrifying lickers, blind monstrosities with exposed brains and Sith-like claws, crawled along ceilings and walls. They hunted purely by sound. One misplaced footstep, and they'd launch at you without mercy. And then there was the tyrant, Mr. X. An unstoppable bioweapon, Mr. X patrolled the R.P.D. like a robotic Grim Reaper. Towering at over 7 feet tall, he could smash through walls and survive gunfire without flinching. The thought of hearing his heavy footsteps echoing through the corridors still gives Resident Evil fans nightmares. But being in Raccoon City's residential neighborhoods, like Uptown, didn't guarantee safety either. Things started out deceptively calm. Streets were empty, but the isolation turned deadly. With supply lines severed, food and water began to run out fast. And trapped inside barricaded homes, people started to lose their minds. Studies from the World Health Organization on real-life urban pandemics, like SARS in 2003, show that psychological panic during quarantine can be as lethal as any biological threat. The sewers offered an alternative escape route, but at a hideous cost. Fewer zombies, sure, but there you faced creatures like the giant gator, a crocodile estimated to be over 10 meters long and weighing more than 2 tons. And that was just the appetizer. The sewers were crawling with G mutants, grotesque experiments of the G virus. And let's not forget the hordes of mutant leeches that devoured anything in their path. Then there were the Umbrella Labs, the notorious Nest facilities. Entering one of these was like stepping into a sci-fi nightmare. Inside, you'd find IV zombies, horrifying creatures entwined with plant matter that could regenerate tissue rapidly. Standard bullets were useless. The only way to kill them was fire. And every door in those labs was secured by elaborate puzzles and security protocols. Every corridor was a potential ambush. Surviving in Raccoon City meant understanding the infected. The classic T-virus zombies weren't fast, but they were relentless and often traveled in swarms. The only sure way to keep one down was a precise headshot. In the tight corridors of R.P.D., that was a terrifying challenge. Then there were the lickers. Blind but equipped with hypersensitive hearing, lickers could detect even the tiniest sound, like a single bullet casing hitting the floor. Scientifically speaking, having an exposed brain is absurdly impractical, but in Resident Evil's twisted universe, that mutation makes them incredibly deadly predators. To survive a licker encounter, silence was crucial, not a single footstep out of place. And then there was the T-103 tyrant, Mr. X. Standing 2.13 meters tall, he was engineered to track and eliminate targets. He could smash through walls, shrug off bullets like mosquito bites, and never seemed to tire. Worse still was Nemesis, a bioweapon enhanced by the NE-alpha parasite. Unlike Mr. X, Nemesis wasn't just strong, he was smart. He could wield weapons, open doors, and relentlessly pursue his chosen prey, especially STAR's members. In the sewers, the G-mutants multiplied rapidly, creating deadly nests. And down in Umbrella's labs, IV zombies were only vulnerable to fire, forcing survivors to save precious fuel and plan every move with surgical precision. Every monster in Raccoon City was a puzzle, and cracking those puzzles often meant the difference between life and death. So the real question is, how would you fare in Raccoon City's apocalypse? Your survival would hinge on your personal skills and how fast you could adapt. Physical agility was crucial. Jill Valentine, one of the series' most iconic survivors, escaped Nemesis over and over thanks to her speed, reflexes, and pure athleticism. She vaulted obstacles, squeezed through collapsing buildings, and pulled off insane acrobatics while under attack. But brute strength alone wouldn't save you. Quick thinking was just as important. Leon Kennedy's survival wasn't only because of his gun skills, but because he could solve puzzles under pressure. improvise tools, and discover hidden escape routes. Medical knowledge could also be a lifesaver. George Hamilton, a character from Resident Evil Outbreak, survived thanks to his skills as a doctor, using herbs and first aid items to treat wounds. In real life, knowing how to apply a tourniquet, disinfect a wound, or manage a fever could mean the difference between surviving for days or bleeding out. Mental resilience was another key factor. Take Hunk, the Grim Reaper. He survived the chaos alone because of his icy calm under pressure. While others panicked, he calculated every move, maximizing his slim chances of survival. And yes, firearms help. But even more important is knowing how to ration your ammo. A classic rookie mistake in Resident Evil is blowing through all your bullets on enemies you could have avoided. Alyssa Ashcroft survived by relying on stealth and lockpicking, sneaking past lethal threats instead of fighting. And David King proved that pure improvisation, turning random tools into weapons, could keep you alive in situations where you'd otherwise be doomed. Survival wasn't just physical, it was psychological warfare, fighting panic, staying logical, and always staying one step ahead of monsters that never tire. But let's imagine a different scenario for a second. What if, instead of following Leon, Claire, or Jill through the same blood-soaked routes, you discovered a hidden path, a secret escape that barely anyone else knew existed? Picture this. The outbreak has already begun. Major roads are choked with wrecked cars and undead hordes. The R.P.D. is overwhelmed. The sewers are a nest of monsters. But you wake up near Raccoon City's North Industrial District, an area close to Umbrella's old distribution center, not far from the underground garage where the Stars used to keep their vehicles. It's a quiet zone, peppered with abandoned warehouses and surprisingly fewer patrols. While searching through the rubble, you stumble on a hidden side entrance to an old maintenance railway line. It's not on any current maps, but according to records from Resident Evil Outbreak, multiple secret underground rail lines once connected Umbrella's abandoned factories in Sector 5, directly to the dots on the circular river. These tracks were built in the 80s and early 90s for discreet transport of bioweapons and secret equipment, and were shut down long before the outbreak, which means almost nobody remembers them. Those tracks cut right beneath forgotten sections of Raccoon City, passing under Raccoon General Hospital and linking to ventilation tunnels used during T-virus experiments in Outbreak File Number 2. The journey wouldn't be easy. You'd have to navigate damaged ventilation systems, sealed corridors with manual locks, and possibly even biological waste left behind from decades of Umbrella's secret transports. But here's the advantage. No tyrants patrol this route. No lickers prowl in the shadows. It's not an active combat zone. It's a corridor lost to time. In one of those warehouses, you might discover an emergency power panel, the kind used in Resident Evil Outbreak to restore electricity in lockdown areas. With a little improvisation, just like David King would do, you could get the power flowing again and unlock hydraulically sealed doors that haven't opened in decades. At the end of that line, you'd reach Umbrella's old cargo terminal on the very edge of the city's perimeter. Jill Valentine once mentioned in Resident Evil 3 that official evacuation routes were cut off by the corporation itself. But this terminal was forgotten far enough from the quarantine zone outside the military cordons. It's not an official escape route. There's no high-tech train waiting for survivors, but it offers something even rarer: anonymity. While everyone else fought for survival in the obvious places, you'd be quietly slipping beneath the chaos, walking through the forgotten veins of the city's past, and emerging alive on the other side. Surviving the Raccoon City apocalypse was about far more than raw strength or firepower. It was about relentless adaptation, icy nerves, and a deep understanding of the monsters lurking in every shadow. In just a few short days, a thriving city of 100,000 people was reduced to ashes. The thermobaric bomb wiped almost all traces off the map, but the memory of that catastrophe still echoes in pop culture, and in every fan who's dared to walk those haunted streets. So, here's my question for you. If you found yourself trapped in Raccoon City, which skill would save your life? Stealth? Quick thinking? Medical know-how? Drop your answers in the comments and let me know what your ultimate survival plan would be. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into Resident Evil science, hit that like button, subscribe for more science meets pop culture breakdowns, and ring that notification bell so you're always ready for the next outbreak. Remember, in a world where science can create monsters, your best weapon is knowing how to fight back. See you in the next one. Stay safe out there.